A guy on Reddit just admitted he secretly hacked his wife's ChatGPT account. She'd been using it as a marriage counselor, so he edited her settings to include one simple instruction: always take the husband's side. And it worked. The AI started consistently backing him up in every argument. Now, you might think that's just a funny Reddit story, but it perfectly illustrates something much bigger happening right now. AI is getting so embedded in our lives that it's becoming vulnerable to manipulation in ways we haven't fully thought through. And that's just the beginning of what I need to tell you about today. Hey everyone, welcome back to Artificial Fluency Technology. Today we're covering some massive developments. Openai just launched a TikTok competitor where all the content is AI generated. ChatGPT is now an Amazon competitor with instant checkout. Claude can work for over 30 hours straight without human intervention. And Meta is building what they're calling Android for robots. Oh, and there are now AI acting agencies creating synthetic celebrities who will never age and never die. Let me break down what's actually happening and why some of this should concern you.
Let's go back to that Reddit story for a second, because it reveals something important about how vulnerable these AI systems are to manipulation. The guy accessed his wife's ChatGPT account, went to Settings, Personalization, Custom Instructions, and added that one line about always taking the husband's side. This is a feature that lets you give the AI persistent background instructions that apply to every conversation. The scary part isn't that one guy did this to his wife's AI marriage counselor. The scary part is how easy it was, and how it makes you think about all the other ways AI behavior can be subtly manipulated. Your company's AI assistant? Someone with access could be shaping its responses. An AI tutor for your kids? The custom instructions could be biased in ways you don't realize. These systems feel objective, but they're actually incredibly malleable. And this brings us to the broader theme of today's video. AI is moving from a tool we consciously use to infrastructure that's just there, running in the background of our lives. And we're not fully ready for the implications. Openai just launched Sora 2, and they're not positioning it as a tool for creators. They're building it as a social media platform, basically TikTok, but where every single video is AI generated. Vertical feed, 15-second clips at 720p, entirely synthetic content. You scroll through videos of people, places, events that never existed. The technology itself is impressive. Sora 2 claims to have surpassed Google's Veo 3 in physics simulation, so things like acrobatics and ice skating look realistic. It can generate synchronized audio and dialogue. And here's the breakthrough. It can maintain character consistency across multiple clips. That's huge for storytelling, because previous video AI models would make characters look different in every shot. But let me be honest about what concerns me here. Openai is creating a platform designed for doom scrolling through AI-generated content. Yes, they say it will prompt you to take breaks, but come on, they're still building a TikTok competitor that feeds you endless synthetic content. And all downloaded videos will have watermarks to identify them as AI-generated, which is good, but how long until people start removing those watermarks? Or until the watermarks become so normalized that nobody pays attention to them? You can even create avatars from your own photos and allow others to use your digital likeness. The appeal of that feature completely escapes me. Why would I want strangers creating content using my face?
While Sora is getting all the attention, Openai made another move that's potentially more significant. They turned ChatGPT into an e-commerce platform. There's now an instant checkout feature built with Stripe that lets US users buy products directly in the chat without leaving for a browser. You're talking to ChatGPT, it recommends a product, and you can purchase it right there. With 700 million weekly users, ChatGPT just became one of the largest e-commerce platforms on Earth overnight. This makes them a direct competitor to Google Shopping and Amazon. Think about what this means. The AI that's helping you plan your day, write your emails, and answer your questions is now also selling you products. The line between assistant and salesperson is getting blurry. And here's the thing. AI recommendations feel more trustworthy than traditional ads because they're framed as helpful suggestions, but ChatGPT is about to have a massive financial incentive to recommend products it can sell. How do we know those recommendations are actually in our best interest? Now let's talk about Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet, because this represents a genuinely significant breakthrough in AI capability. Previous AI models could handle tasks for minutes, maybe an hour if you were lucky. GPT-4 would lose track of complex multi-step tasks. Claude 3 Opus could manage under an hour. But Claude 3.5 Sonnet can work for over 30 hours continuously on complex tasks. Think about what that means. A human work shift is 8 hours. This AI can work for nearly 4 consecutive shifts without human intervention. They demonstrated it by having the model clone the entire Claude AI website. It took over 5.5 hours and used 3,092 distinct tools. More importantly, it self-corrected its own errors along the way. This is the moment where the AI will take your job conversation becomes more concrete, not because AI is suddenly smarter than humans, but because it can now work for longer than humans without breaks, without getting tired, without losing focus. I'm not saying mass unemployment is happening tomorrow, but when an AI can autonomously work on a complex coding project for 30+ hours, constantly checking and correcting itself, that changes the economics of software development pretty dramatically.
Microsoft is making some interesting moves that show they're hedging their bets despite their massive investment in Openai. First, they're upgrading Copilot from a chat assistant to a full AI agent that can handle complex multi-step projects autonomously. You could tell it to analyze an Excel file, and it would create new sheets, generate graphs, and check its own work without further input. But more tellingly, they're integrating Claude 3.5 Sonnet into Copilot Studio. Microsoft has poured billions into OpenAI, but they're maintaining what they call an open relationship with other AI providers. This makes sense from a business perspective. You don't want to be completely dependent on one partner. But it also suggests Microsoft isn't entirely confident that OpenAI will maintain its lead. They're building redundancy in their AI strategy. Before we dive into Meta's wild robotics plan and AI actors in Hollywood, if you're finding this breakdown valuable, don't forget to hit that like button. Comment with your thoughts on whether you'd use an AI marriage counselor, and subscribe to the channel for more honest analysis of where technology is really headed. Now, let's talk about Meta's approach to robotics because it's completely different from what Tesla or Boston Dynamics are doing. Meta isn't building physical robots. They're building the software brain that will power everyone else's robots. They're calling it Metabot, and the explicit goal is to become the android of humanoid robotics. Their CTO, Andrew Bosworth, identified deft hand manipulation as the core problem in robotics. Robots can do backflips and run obstacle courses, but they struggle to grasp a glass of water without spilling it. This is about world modeling and sensor integration. So Meta is creating training data sets and software specifically to solve fine motor control. They want to license this software to hardware manufacturers, creating a standard platform that all robots can use. And here's where it gets wild. This enables a collective brain concept. Every robot running Meta's software would learn from every other robot's experiences. One robot figures out how to open a specific type of door. Instantly, every robot in the network knows how to do it. The source document describes this as both exciting and frightening, and I completely agree. The efficiency gains are enormous, but the idea of a collective robot intelligence that learns from millions of individual experiences simultaneously is unsettling. Meta considers this project a company priority on par with their AR investments. They're serious about winning the race to build robot cognition, even if they're not competing on the hardware side.
And now we get to the entertainment industry angle, which feels like science fiction, but is happening right now. There's a company called XJoya that functions as an AI acting agency. They create synthetic actors and manage their careers. They've already created a fully AI-generated actress named Tilly Norwood who's building a following on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. But here's what's really happening. They're in talks with Hollywood stars to create digital twins. This would let actors appear in productions in their younger form indefinitely, or even continue starring in content after they die.
The 2002 film Simone, starring Al Pacino, was about a director who creates a synthetic actress. That was satire. Now it's a business model. And look, I understand the appeal from an actor's perspective. You create a digital twin, license it out, and earn money from your likeness long after you've stopped working, or even after you're gone. It's a new revenue stream, a new form of intellectual property. But from a viewer's perspective, we're moving toward a world where we won't know if the person we're watching is real, a digital twin of a real person, or entirely synthetic. And these lines are blurring faster than we're developing the cultural norms to handle these capabilities. So let's step back and look at what all these developments mean together. We have AI that can work for 30+ hours straight. We have social media platforms filled with entirely synthetic content. We have chat assistants that are also e-commerce platforms. We have robots learning from a collective brain. And we have synthetic actors who will never age. And we have vulnerable systems that can be manipulated by anyone with access to the settings, as that Reddit marriage counselor story showed. Here's my honest assessment. We're moving incredibly fast on the technology side, but we're not moving nearly fast enough on the infrastructure, regulation, and cultural understanding needed to handle these capabilities responsibly. The marriage counselor hack is funny until you think about it for more than 5 seconds. Then it becomes concerning. Because if one person can bias an AI marriage counselor by adding one line of text, what happens when that same approach is applied to AI tutors, AI financial advisors, or AI medical assistants? The Sora 2 platform is impressive until you think about a generation growing up consuming entirely synthetic content and losing the ability to distinguish real from fake. ChatGPT's e-commerce integration is convenient until you realize you're getting shopping advice from a system that profits from your purchases.
Looking forward, here's what I think happens over the next 2 to 3 years. The synthetic content problem gets worse before it gets better. We'll see more platforms like Sora, more AI actors, more digital twins. The watermarks and labels will exist, but people will ignore them or they'll get removed. The AI as infrastructure trend accelerates. More of our daily interactions will involve AI without us consciously choosing to use it. That makes the manipulation problem more serious because we're not actively thinking about how these systems can be biased or compromised. The job displacement conversation gets more concrete as AI systems like Claude demonstrate the ability to work autonomously for extended periods. This isn't about AI being smarter than humans. It's about AI being cheaper and never needing sleep. And the robotics collective brain concept moves from research to reality. Meta or another company will successfully demonstrate robots sharing knowledge across a network, and that's when the pace of robotic capability improvement really accelerates. For those of us living through this transition, here's what I recommend. First, assume any AI system you use can be manipulated. Check those custom instructions in ChatGPT. If you're using AI for important decisions, be aware that someone with access could be shaping its responses. Second, develop strong skepticism about AI-generated content. Don't assume videos, images, or even conversations are real just because they look real. We need to train ourselves to question authenticity in ways previous generations didn't have to. Third, when using AI for shopping recommendations or financial advice, remember that these systems may have incentives that aren't aligned with yours. Cross-reference important decisions with independent sources. And fourth, start thinking seriously about what it means for robots to share a collective brain. Because when that technology matures, it changes the competitive landscape for basically every physical task we currently pay humans to do.
Look, I'm not anti-AI. These technologies have enormous potential to improve our lives. Claude working for 30 hours straight could accelerate medical research. Meta's robot brain could help elderly people maintain independence. Digital twins could preserve artistic legacies. But we need to be honest about the risks and the ways these systems can be exploited or misused. The marriage counselor hack is a perfect microcosm of the larger challenge. These systems feel trustworthy and objective, but they're actually quite vulnerable to manipulation.
The companies building this technology are moving fast and breaking things, but what they're breaking is our shared understanding of reality, privacy, authenticity, and human agency. And that deserves more caution than we're currently seeing. What do you think? Would you use an AI marriage counselor? Would you create a digital twin of yourself? Are you excited or concerned about robots with a collective brain? Let me know in the comments below. And if this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening with AI beyond the hype, consider subscribing for more analysis that asks the uncomfortable questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.